Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Pitch Us. We have a really special episode today. Not all pitches come in this formal 10-minute, 12-minute pitch. Sometimes you're doing pitch competitions, and we're lucky to be joined by Wumgo today, who is going to a pitch competition soon. It's a 2-minute pitch. Before we get into that, we will introduce ourselves. My name's Tim. I'm the author of the Pitch Deck book, and joined with me is Jeff Erickson. Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, I am currently with a company called Forecaster that does financial modeling for early stage startups. I'm also an angel investor and a startup mentor. So love working with great entrepreneurs like Terry, who we've got today. And I'm excited to kind of switch things up a little bit and have a 2-minute drill, the 2-minute pitch variation here. So excited to have you, Terry.
I'm super excited to be here. I feel like this is, I've been waiting a long time to be on your show, and this is like my dress rehearsal now for the 2-minute drill. So I couldn't be with better, mentors. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Love it.
Awesome. So like we were saying, there's multiple ways of pitching your company. Especially if you're really early on, if you can get involved in pitch competitions, especially like students, there's tons of pitch competitions and usually range between 2 to 3 minutes. I know Jeff and I have been on a lot of panels. So what we're going to do is, let Terry do her 2-minute pitch, give her some feedback, good and the bad. And then at the end of it, we're going to give you guys a ton of tips of things that we've kind of learned throughout being on the panel side of this of pitches. And so with that being said, normally, let's take a caveat. Normally, you might get a couple pitches, a couple slides. And in this case, Terry, I believe you do not get any slides.
No slides.
No slides. So in this case, no slides are provided. So you just have 2 minutes. So why don't you go ahead and pitch us?
Okay. Wumgo is the first wearable child carrier invented to protect kids if the wearer accidentally trips and falls. And there's no other carrier like it on the market. We're engineered like a helmet and we're designed like a child carrier. Wumgo is lightweight and comfortable, and our hard outer shell and impact absorbing liner protects the child if a parent or wearer falls. And we're really excited to be launching Wumgo on an upcoming Indiegogo campaign next month. There has been safety innovation in every child carrier product on the market, except wearable carriers. They've been overlooked. The first carrier was invented 50 years ago, and it was made from cloth. Still today, every carrier on the market is made from cloth. This is unacceptable. One child every 30 minutes is injured in a cloth carrier accident. A majority of those injuries result in trauma to the child's head. I recognized this huge problem while I was hiking, and there were so many young families out hiking with their kids using cloth carriers, and it looked dangerous to me. I immediately started designing a safer carrier for active parents. And I've been using an expert manufacturer who builds professional sports helmets for the NFL and the NHL. The global total addressable market for child safety products is $93 billion annually. Our backpack costs $100 to manufacture, and we're going to retail that for $350, which is comparable to the leading wearable carriers on the market today. And we'll sell Wumgo direct to consumer on e-commerce sites, in brick and mortar stores, and through distributors, open markets worldwide. We won the European Product Design Award for Child Safety, and we have a utility patent for our protective technology. Thank you.
Great job. As you guys can see, 2 minutes is not a lot of time, but the reality is that you actually need to convey all the information that a normal pitch would have in that short period of time, but you have to do it in such a condensed way. And the key, truthfully, in pitching these things is actually Q&A and being intentional on what you leave out so that you can get the questions that you want. So Jeff, why don't you tell us what you liked, and then I'll do the same, but why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so first off, I love the background. You've got the product in there. I think that's awesome. I love the Wumgo shirt. A little branding in there.
Thank you.
So way to go. Sets the stage nicely. The other thing, I mean, you hit some of the key points that I think you have to, for investors. The total addressable market, it's big. Things like what I loved when the section where you went through your cost. It costs $100 and we're going to sell it for $395. There's some big margins in there. I'm like, okay, I can see that. You mentioned that that's kind of comparable with what else is out there, but it's superior product. So all of those things I thought were fantastic. I think the problem, I think you identified it quite nicely, of child safety. The good thing about that, especially for pitch competitions like this, is that there is a tie. Most people can relate to that. We want children to be safe, and worst thing could happen is you can imagine somebody falling in one of these cloth carriers and their child gets hurt or something. And you mentioned the number of child incidents that happen. Was it every second or every few seconds?
No, one child every 30 minutes.
Every 30 minutes, there's a child. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, in my mind, it was like, okay, that's a lot. So if we can help prevent some of that, I thought it was really good in a lot of ways. So, okay, I just had a couple things, Terry, that might be helpful as you're heading into this. I mean, obviously there were a couple spots too in particular where I noticed you paused pretty, a good pause there.
Oh, I messed up.
This is tough because these 2-minute drills, you want to have them down and make it flow and just be confident and go through it without any incidents. Sometimes you'll notice that people will almost judge on the presentation, depending on the audience, but a lot of times it's the presentation and how that comes across that gets judged in terms of the winners sometimes. So have that down, keep practicing. The more you can practice, the better you get at it. And so enough said there. The other thing you mentioned when you start talking about why this problem was important to you. You were out hiking and you saw some of the people with cloth carriers, and then you had a statement that said, "It looked dangerous to me." I want that to be, this is dangerous, and almost lead into, this is dangerous and it's unacceptable, because every 30 minutes a child is harmed this way. We've got to make a change. And so I didn't want it to come across as, it looked dangerous to me. I wanted it to be more, this is dangerous and we need to do something about it. And so I would maybe switch that up a little bit and, come across a little bit more powerfully right there. But
I love that. Thanks. Yeah, that's great.
So other than that, I mean, you hit your total addressable market. I was a little, I'd probably ask you a little bit about the, how much of that market is really obtainable. We might drill into that in the Q&A a little bit, but like Tim said, it's hard to get everything into a 2-minute pitch. We obviously didn't go through your competition in depth, but you hit on it at a high level. Just that it's cloth carriers.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very well done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's just right at the end when I'm right about to say, we're the best. I stalled.
The European Design Award. That's got to come out. That
it was we're blowing it up was the line I missed, and I was like, "What's the line?"
Gotcha. So,
wow.
Great job, Terry.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job. So, I mean, honestly, for those that don't know out there, we've seen this pitch develop over time, and these 2-minute ones are hard. I think you did a great job. You have a lot of really hard-hitting things in this. Working with designers for NFL helmets, I thought that was really impactful. That data point of 1 in 30 minutes that you've mentioned a couple times. Those things, the cloth carrier, I don't know why I really gravitated to that phrasing of something that's not good. And so I think that those things are really important. And I'm going to add the caveat early on is I think it's important to start with the background and then that problem. You really came into the solution heavy right at the beginning, and I have no emotional connection at all, right? Like I get this helmet thing. I don't know why I need it in the first place.
Mhm.
Just like in a regular pitch, I do think like tying it, like I was out backpacking, I saw this cloth carrier, it just didn't seem safe, like Jeff mentioned. And by the way, it's not. 1 in 30, every 30 minutes, someone gets hurt wearing these things, and I had to fix it. That beginning is so important of like why that background. And it ties me in already to like, well, what are you doing about it? I'm kind of, you can actually watch audiences lean into the solution.
What a great, that's great advice. I'm going to do that. Problem solution.
Yeah. So start with the background, then the problem. How did you become aware of it? And like I just did, you can do that in 5 seconds, 10 seconds. So you have all the pieces here. I think it's just organizing it. Like Jeff mentioned, you don't have a slide, but if you can incorporate a slide unintentionally in a video, beautiful. I love seeing people wear their products or like the branding. If they have physical products, I think that's a really beautiful thing to do in any kind of pitch. It doesn't always lend itself. But if you do have a consumer product, I think branding in front of it's really, really good. One thing that you could do to save yourself some time is to leave the costs off, and you have to play with it, but make sure you tell me how much you sell it for, because that could lead to a question. You might get like, well, what does it cost you? Right? So you just saved yourself about 5 seconds, knowing that that might come in a little bit later. Especially if like in this case, you did go a little bit over, right? And one of the big things with these competitions is timing. I've been in.
I don't think I went over. Did you time it?
Yeah, I did. Just being aware of that, because sometimes like what we used to do is we would start clapping and we would clap a person off stage. Another thing I think you did really good is avoid scripting. So sounding like you're reading. To do a 2-minute well, you have to know almost every word at every time. But you didn't come off that way. It sounded still very conversational. And so I thought you did a really, really good job on that, because it actually is really difficult. Yeah, so that's kind of what those are my feedback on this so far.
That's great.
So what I would love to do then real quick is talk about some other things that we've seen on the industry. If you're in these 2 minutes, like what are the judges thinking when they're looking at all these opportunities? So Jeff, why don't you go through and talk about maybe some tips or some things that you've seen being on the shorter pitch?
Yep. Yeah. One of the things that I think is really essential is the confidence element. If you come in to this confident and you come across and portray the confidence, that comes across really nicely to your investors, regardless of the length of pitch, but particularly here, again, we already kind of talked about it, but having the whole message down to where it just flows very nicely. A lot of times that goes into at least consideration in terms of who the winner is in these competitions. So again, keep practicing. More that you practice, more fluid it gets, the more conversational and the more confidence you have as you're presenting, it makes a big difference. The other thing you'll notice is Tim mentioned earlier that there's a lot of times there'll be a rubric or some type of a grading criteria. And a lot of times as judges, you go through and you're jotting these things down. I know Tim mentioned just in the pre warm-ups here that sometimes that doesn't really matter. You want to pitch to the rubric, but a lot of times it comes down to which of these presentations did I really resonate with, which drew me in, and it almost becomes an emotional type of a thing in a lot of cases, especially where you have a short amount of time. The other piece that comes in is the Q&A, how well you handle the Q&A. And it sounds like you're going to have 3 minutes of Q&A in this particular competition.
Right.
Knowing your numbers is a big thing, because you'll probably get drilled on that. Knowing what your ask is, they'll probably, they may or may not, depending on the context, ask you about that. If you hit them with, we're raising, $750,000 in a convertible note, and here are the terms, just come across real quick and simple, but have all those things at your fingertips. Again, it goes back to confidence and which presentation you kind of feel the most confident in backing, I guess, is the one that typically wins.
Yeah, well, there'll be 5 other founders competing for $50,000, and it's non-dilutive. It's just a prize.
Yep.
Part cash, part
Services
prize.
probably.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a surprise prize.
Okay.
Yeah, so they may ask, they may ask what I'm, if I'm raising now, and I'll let them know that. But at the end, I could say we'll use, if we win today, we'll use the prize money toward our upcoming pre-sale campaign next month.
Great.
What do you think of that answer?
I would put it more in the marketing context of preparing for that. Like we've got a video shoot that we're working on, the marketing materials, and I'm almost detail it out a little bit more. And that's in preparation for a pre-sales campaign that we're launching on this date. And just have it kind of, again, it goes back to your confidence. It's like, this is what we're doing. This is what the money's going to go towards, and it's going to help us fulfill this. And just be ready to answer that.
Yeah.
Concisely.
Okay.
Yeah, check your rubric and see if that is part of it, is what's the use of funds might be for. I would always end with that, like with the $50,000, we will do these 5 things. It's almost as if it's like an ask in a normal pitch. With the $2 million, we're going to do these things. And so you can end really cleanly with that. But just check the rubric. Otherwise, it might be better just to leave it off because you don't have that much time.
And leave it for Q&A, because it may come up in the Q&A, so just be prepared for it.
Yeah.
You guys are great. Okay, so I have one question. I spend quite a long time, I think, with my story and talking about the problem. Do I need to, I hit on, it was invented 50 years ago. There's no carrier on the market that isn't made from cloth. I noticed people hiking and they were all using cloth carriers, and that's, it takes up quite a long time. Do you think I need that much of my script talking about the problem?
Yes. I would say if we were to break it down by time, 30 seconds on background and problem discovery, 30 seconds on solution. You can cover the rest of it in about a minute.
Awesome.
The majority should be that, because again, like Jeff said, these judges, and let me add to this, and depending on the type of the competition, some of the judges aren't sophisticated investors. So they might be the funders. So you might get a fractional CFO who's part of the bigger group because they put in, $100,000 into the competition. You might get from a bank, you might get a manager, you might get, and really depending on what the competition structure is like, that also develops the judging pool. And so what they're looking for, it might be a little bit different than what Jeff and I might look for on an investment side. Because keep in mind, this is a prize. This is not an investment, right? So at the end of the day, I actually, as a judge, don't really care who wins, other than like, man, I can't wait to see this product come to market. I said this in the preview before this, but a flying car tends to win a competition like this because it's really exciting, right? It's really unique. It's very novel. But the other things that win are like what I think that you have is something that really is unique, novel. It solves a real pain. The other thing that we look at in competitions like this is, how are you going to use that prize money? Will that $50,000 or $5,000 or $500 really progress the company? And sometimes that becomes way more important than that rubric we talked about. And so what you're trying to do is play to all of those emotional things, right? Like, I don't know how well $50,000, but you made it sound like it's going to be the thing that makes you a successful company. And so I'm going to run with that.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
I'll just add to what Tim was saying. I actually like what he mentioned about, building that relationship first and the problem through your experience and tying it in emotionally up front, and then going into the problem and then the solution. I think that I had no problem with the amount of content or any of the stuff that you had. So I didn't see that it would take anything out. I do agree with Tim now that he said it, that I would switch that up as well. Draw us in quickly with the emotion,
Yeah,
and then, hit home the solution.
love it. So cool. I can't wait to go and play with that.
I know. I hope you win.
Awesome.
No, we're cheering for you for sure.
So excited.
Yeah. So, and some other things that I would really think about in these competitions is if you can get to know who the judges are first, do some background. If you find out that they're bankers, if you find out that they're just CEOs of companies, they're all going to prepare your answers, is what I'm trying to say. Like Jeff mentioned, another thing that I've seen that works against founders in these competitions is really long-winded answers. So really almost just answer the question and no more. Maybe a little bit more if you have to put some background onto the answer, but you don't have a lot of time. 3 minutes goes so quick, and you want to get to, typically a question will spur a question, which will spur a question. And so you want to make sure that you're not wasting the time of the judges by doing this super long answer.
Right. That's good advice.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I've seen too many pitch competitions where you're like, okay, get off the stage already.
Yeah. You're like, we know.
Don't be that person.
Other than that, Jeff, do you have any other kind of tips and tricks?
I think we covered this pretty well, Terry. Like I said, we are cheering for you, and we'll be excited to hear how the pitch competition goes, and we hope you win.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for your help. And I just think your advice has been spot on. I can't wait to go and practice. I have one more day.
Okay.
You've got one more day to get it all, just perfected, and then go in with that confidence and, crush it.
Yeah. I want to be invited back on a Pitch Us so that I could get the real deal here.
Cool deal. Cool. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
Fantastic. Well, this has been great because I think for the listeners, it's been a little unique in terms of having a 2-minute, pitch competition type of a preparation. One of the things I think we wanted to emphasize to the other founders is you can't just think that you have a one pitch fits all. So it can't just be, okay, I've got my 10-minute pitch. You probably need a 7-minute pitch. You probably need a 3-minute pitch, maybe a 2-minute pitch, depending on the circumstances. But what the other thing I've seen is if you can get a good 3-minute pitch, it helps you to figure out what is really important and what's concise. So Terry, I think, preparing for this 2-minute pitch is going to actually help your 8-minute pitch probably be better as well.
Yeah. And your advice about pitching as much as possible to people I don't even know via Zoom, because this is a Zoom pitch competition, has already really helped me. And I've only been doing that for 2 days, but it's not only building my community, but it's helping me to relax more.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great thing, because pitching in Zoom in 2 minutes is way different than pitching in person in 2 minutes. And there could be a whole other host of things that are happening in the background. So yeah, practice. I mean, and again, I'll reiterate what Jeff said. These are hard. They're not easy. If you do spend the time on the 10 minutes so that you can cut to make a 2-minute and then throw things back in to make it longer, man, you'll do good. They're fun. I love these because they're so quick.
Well, you guys are really forgiving, so that's good. I hope they're just as forgiving as you are.
You'll do great.
Yeah, go win.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Terry, for presenting. Again, like these are very unique, these 2 minutes. They do happen a lot in the process of raising capital. If you are looking for help to pitch, please reach out to Pitch Us. We are always looking for new companies to review. And if you're looking for help on your financials, check out Forecaster. There's a link below that you can get a discount. So check them out, and then we'll see you guys next time.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Terry.
Thank you.